talk about white fragility and how this is stifling any type of movement forward. Society is built to protect whiteness. Even the progress we've made in terms of racial discourse in South Africa is easing white people into awareness. Like, we use terms, even white privilege, which is the term being thrown around. But that even has positive connotations. Privilege comes with the ideas of merit and wealth. Using terms, softer terms, is protecting. It's a really pleasant, white privilege. It's a really pleasant term to describe years of racial oppression, brutal racial oppression. But white fragility, because society promotes whiteness in every aspect. Capitalism, Hollywood, everything we consume promotes the value of whiteness. That white people, particularly in South Africa, are easily triggered by anything that actually directly challenges their whiteness. What happens if we change white privilege to a term like white unfair advantages? Then, I said that to my mom once, and she was like, I worked so hard, you don't know what I had to do to get you through school. I was like, Mom, it's all relative though. Like, society was built for your trajectory. And that's what intersectionality is about. I don't want to go, there's no time to go into intersectionality. But the lived experience of white women and black women are vastly different. And I want to use the example that's quite topical at the moment, Rebecca Davis's comments on white feminism recently. And I'm going to use this example as a case study for how we are protected from doing any deeper introspection, deeper reflection on how inhumane whiteness actually is and how it is continuously perpetuated in society today. So, Rebecca Davis, in response to Lena Dunham's white feminism thing, said that patriarchy is the enemy, not white feminism. And surely the focus on white feminism is distracting us as feminists from bringing down the patriarchy. But what she doesn't understand is that specifically white feminism is not incidental to white domination. In fact, they've gone hand in hand. Whiteness transcends, has seeped into every aspect of society. And I'm going to use an example in South Africa. During the Great Depression, obviously unemployment rose significantly, which forced the women in Afrikaans, in society, to seek out jobs because there was a lack of income, which obviously went against the Calvinistic traditional Afrikaans nuclear family. The woman stays at home and the men work. So a feminism developed then to increase the economic autonomy of women so that they could fill in the gaps in the labor market. This was obviously seen as a complete defiance, but there was a glaring absence of black women in the labor market. They were pushed into a domestic sphere, obviously as domestic workers, which is still a topical issue in South Africa today, and they weren't counted as part of the labor market. And so how is white feminism not part of this project of whiteness? And that's where our blind spots are. Because society caters for us to ease us into the harsh realities of what whiteness does, we aren't developing a critical consciousness within ourselves to move forward. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to ask you something which is partially related to what you've been, some of the thoughts that you shared. And that is, I mean, one of the things that I'm very aware of at the moment is the sort of generational, it feels to me like harder and harder generational divisions in South African politics, in the way people are thinking, in public discourse, in private conversations as well. But what I want to ask you is, in terms of where you're at the moment and the university and being part of obviously a very large group of students there, my guess is that the positions that you are presenting now, to pass to you as well, Nathan, within white student groups, whatever, are relatively marginalized. And because you mentioned the thing about sort of the conversation between you and your mom, and I'm very aware of the generation stuff, but I'm trying to get a picture of, in terms of the majority of students on campus at the moment, where we are in relation to people's consciousness around whiteness and the composition to what's happening.
So are you asking what the general narrative is on campus amongst white students?
Yeah.
You can also what the general narrative is in this room.
Yeah. It's extremely one-dimensional and naive. Because whiteness has been privileged for so long. Everything in society, we can't argue that everything in society caters towards our trajectory and our, self-esteem. That any sort of direct challenge triggers white people into complete defense mode and then shut the conversation down. And I've experienced that on campus a lot. And the majority narrative amongst, you would think at a liberal institution like UCT, and with the amount of political activity that took place, there would have been a large growth in consciousness among white students. But in fact, there is just a complete resistance to engage with the inhumanity of whiteness and how it affects people of color in this country directly. And I guess because this journey now that white people have to go on, specifically in South Africa, is going to be extremely painful. Like, it's going to be uncomfortable. And to say something that Dennis said, if non-racialism is the dream, then the genuine reflexivity and reflection that we as white people have to do in South Africa is going to result in our personal nightmare. Because just whiteness is you can't divorce whiteness from capitalism, you can't divorce whiteness from feminism, you can't divorce whiteness from labor. It's the very structure of our economic structure in South Africa was built to cater towards white people. So in order for a white consciousness to develop, white people have to be prepared to feel very uncomfortable and face very harsh truths. And unfortunately, society doesn't force us. We can easily turn away. We can watch Carte Blanche and see the state the country's in, but then the 8 o'clock movie comes on and we just forget it. And then that's fine. And so there's nothing exposing us directly. And that's what I was talking about, white fragility, is that society is protecting us from being triggered with the harsh realities.
Mervyn, can I ask Tarryn Naude, why is it not more disruptive? I don't understand why, given what has happened last year, given the extent of disruption, you suggesting that it hasn't really been disrupted and that the majority narrative has remained the same. Why is that?
Oh no, it was severely disrupted.
Sorry, can I ask you guys, we can hear quite a lot of really lovely wine glass drinking. Can you speak up a bit? Or
Okay, the question was, why has university not been more disrupted? Why is that white narrative not being more disruptive given what we went through last year?
Well, I mean, we shut down the university, right? But the political engagement, the demographics of political engagement generally on campus whites are the minority. There is no need for them to get involved because it's not a matter of survival for them. Because we are living in privilege. And so, I mean, Nathan can back me up here. The number of students who made Facebook statuses about being excited that university was shut down for a week, while Nathan and I were being hit down and shot at, was bizarre. And then they hijacked. Monday they were calling us hooligans, Wednesday history makers. And white people just have a well, I'm speaking in general terms, white people have a tendency to backpack in silent solidarity. I don't understand why white people aren't getting involved or why disruption makes them so uncomfortable, because nothing's being taken away from them. They're only gaining from the developing consciousness of people of color in this country. But all they do is resist. And yeah.
Are there not other people who are also struggling with the wanting to get involved but don't know how to get involved in the context of feeling that as white South Africans they need to actually listen and be silent?
Well, that's why Nathan has developed platforms like Disrupting Whiteness to create that space for those conversations to take place. But at events, I remember the one event where I was facilitating small groups to talk about white privilege and how we navigate the space. There were more people of color in the room than white people. And there is just a complete apathy, or there's just no need for whiteness to get involved. Either because it's just too much effort, or people are scared to face the harsh realities.
Okay. I want to ask you... Okay.
Just one point. I was
Sure.
saying, the fact that we have to ask the question, why hasn't whiteness been more disrupted at UCT? I mean, look what happened. The fact that we have to ask that question means we have a very incomplete analysis of the encompassing nature of whiteness. And we might not exactly understand the power relations and dynamics in SA. And we might be a bit more hopeful and optimistic than the reality suggests.
Expand.
Basically, to question why whiteness has not been more disrupted at UCT, that fundamentally comes from an assumption that whiteness is a lot weaker than it is. It comes from the assumption that it will be a lot harder to go back to normal. It went back to normal the day after Shackle. The very next day. People walked over broken glass, burnt cement, piles of debris, places where people would have been screaming just 2 hours before. Like everything was normal. Nobody battered and we need to be careful on how optimistic we're going to be in our current situation.
Well, and if I could just answer you a slightly different step. I'm surprised by the question. I'm sure you're asking it slightly provocatively because, I mean, a dominant discourse, or if you wish to put it in the jargon, a hegemonic discourse, is not dislodged on 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 3. And it sure as hell is not dislodged only by students. And an old Marxist like me, you have to accept that the working class of the game will be the engine room of revolution, not a bunch of students. As much as I think what students are doing is very important, there's a broad issue. The question of actually changing, and that's what I meant by changing identity. Changing identity means changing a discourse in which the entire basis by which people look at their society is entirely different from the one now. Now, it doesn't surprise me at all. University of Cape Town and the University of Advanced, which are the two that I know best because I spent most of my life teaching there, are universities which essentially reflected this. In 1994, those of us old enough will know that in the 80s, you could go to UDF meetings, and I mean, there's a lot of a history going on here, because the truth about it was, in the 1980s, lots of the older people in this room, not as old as me, but would have gone to UDF meetings, and there would have been actually quite a lot of non-nationalism. Those of us who worked in the trade union movement would have in fact been in a non-racial project of a major kind with workers, and they were there. Now, what happens is in 1994, much to my amazement, my emotional amazement, not my intellectual amazement, everything goes back to normal. People say, okay, we've got apartheid off our backs, business as usual. And the university carried on with business as usual. You know, those of us who were students in the 1970s demanded that Jameson Hall be changed then. Because who the hell wanted some obscure madman, you know, who would cause all sorts of havoc on behalf of the British to have his name on the thing. The truth of the matter is that everything remained the same. Now, it's terrific that students, in a sense, have caused us to reflect on that. But the fact is that one, as it were, explosion doesn't dislodge the kind of the distinctive quality of a discourse built up over 300 years. And frankly, it can't only be done by students. And here's the interesting paradoxical point that was made. I agree, white students are a minority, just as they are in the country. So the question you've also got to ask, and it's really, I think, patronizing when I get these kinds of answers when I do my television programs, that Zuma, etc., are just merely reflective of white people. As if, you know, black politicians and black people have no minds of their own, they're merely kind of puppets at that. So the question is, what's going on? And what's going on now is something quite momentous. Because I think we're seeing a fracturing to a large degree of a kind of politics, which has basically been a politics of patronage and a politics which has not tried to do anything of this kind, which is perfectly satisfied with this particular discourse. Right? And therefore, this is going to be a lot of hard work that's going to have to take place, both from students, from workers, and from society as a whole, if we're going to dislodge the present hegemonic way in which the world is looked at into something that's slightly different. Let me just make one final point. Just look at the way we discuss the economy in the world, in South Africa. We discuss the economy either by people who think that all you want to do is have the state reconstruct everything, which is absolute nonsense in the global world. And on the other hand, they're Tea Party people, the sort of Leon Low types, right? And Emerson's economists who aren't economists, but think they are, who just talk about the market running as of pure. And you try to find any kind of construction of a truly South African economic project which is going to do what I'm deeply committed to, and I'm certain most people in this room are, which is to ensure that we reduce the Gini coefficient and create an egalitarian society, and that really the 60 or 70% of people living on the margins stop living on the margins and actually live in the centre. Now, for that to happen, we've got to actually have a serious dislodging of whatever you want to call it. You want to call it whiteness, you want to call it capitalist domination, you want to call it a kind of comprador bourgeois class, you can call it what you like, but that's what the challenge is.
You can see the two Marxists are because that's why I asked the question. Because why on earth do we expect white students on varsity to change in any way? Why are they at varsity? They're at varsity because they're part of the middle class getting a tertiary education to go and join capital.
Yeah,
that's why they're there.
They want their BMs and their Mercedes. Yes,
exactly. So when I addressed, I was asked to talk to the law students 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And I went to talk to them. My talk to them was, what are you going, there is no institutionalized community service, but how many of you are going to go and do something decent with your LLB next year? And how many of you are going to go to Edward Nathan Sonnenberg's and wherever and try and earn as much money as you can?
My complaint in time.
And I mean, I could have taken my clothes off and danced a jig for the amount of attention I got for that message. Nobody was interested.
But you're not
Why do we,
surprised.
and I'm not
But you're not
surprised.
surprised.
I
Okay,
shouldn't be expecting that.
We're
Same
again,
question.
I'm going to come to Tarryn now. Just before I do, just the one thing I want to say, you ended off with, you can call it whatever you like, it doesn't matter. I disagree completely. I think it's very, very important that you do call it.
Well, I'll tell you why I disagree with you, but...
Well, okay. Just remind me what time you need.
That term is complete decolonization. Is the anyway, I'm going to throw shade at the older generation here. Because we're getting flack for...
Do you want to maybe just explain what throwing shade means?
I think we got an idea, Mervyn.
I'm going to call you out. What were you doing? I Marion Tam wrote a very good article where she addresses the historical void in which the born frees, or the Maya Nathan's generation, was brought up in. So in a white household, we are taught apartheid was bad, Mandela was released from prison, all's fine now, we equal. Mom treats the domestic worker well, all
She's
is
part
well.
of the family.
Yeah. We're all equal now. That's the narrative of South Africa's history driven within the majority of white households. Within black households, that's remarkably different because of, well, the inequality gap, etc. So the narrative is, apartheid happened, legislatively it's done, but there's still so much work to do. And that's why, I mean, I'm just lucky